Today we're going in on the V65 Sabre. The rear brake has been catching, and at one point I pulled it off and I pushed it back with a vice grip, and then I tried not to use it, but it's a big heavy bike and it would be beneficial to have a rear brake along with the front brakes, especially if I'm riding two up. So anyway, because this is sitting outside, stuff just tends to go, you know, moisture gets in there and stuff, so you got to make sure, keep your stuff running right. So the first thing we're going to do, brake the 14, brake the 12, which I already did, and then we're going to pull this off. I already loosened this banjo bolt for the brake line, and we're going to have to, I'm going to pull this off, see if I can use the pedal and pump out the pistons. That'll make them easier to take out, and I think we have to clean them, of course. Probably not leaking anything because we don't see any leaks. I already popped this loose a little bit and then retightened it. So once we get this off and push them out, shouldn't be that hard to take off. So that's also a 12. Here we can see that I definitely did use these brakes and they did not recede. And I doubt that they're going to happily. Brake pads look good. And we're just going to pull them off. Looks like we just popped this guard. We're gonna need to take this bolt out, which I did not loosen. And then this guard pops up. These pins can pull out. And then our pads, see them on this side, then our pads are free. But before we do that, I'm gonna need to break this one free. It actually looks like a 10, since we have our 12 over here. And probably just grab my impact for that, because at this point I want to pull the pads out so that I can completely push the cylinders out if that's what they're gonna do. Quick little impact, bada bing, and the 10mm bolt came out, which I dropped, and I'm gonna have to find it now. Oh, it's right here. I was looking for it, couldn't see it. So that comes out of there. Make sure that goes somewhere that I don't lose it. Let's set it on top of the bike so it has a chance to fall down again. And then this little bracket slides up and releases our these rods. So these guys just slide through. We're gonna clean those up too so the pads can freely move on them. That could be an issue too, so we'll pull those out. And then the pads can come out so we can push out our pistons. Okay, pushed our pistons. Well, these aren't the pistons. I pushed our rods. I don't even know what you want to call these. But I pushed them through the caliper. Both of our pads came out. As you can see, they're kind of rusty on there for whatever reason. These, I think, are the inside one. Be easy to put them back in the way they need to be. And you can see inside, there is a slide in there, so that can be cleaned up. Make sure the pads are moving correctly. And these will be cleaned up with some steel wool and cleaner, brake clean, so they slide freely. Put a little bit of grease on there. And then here's what we wanted to do. Let's see if we can push them out with the brake pedal. I'm gonna push down on the brake pedal and see if we can push these suckers out. Yep, they're moving. So they definitely were not stuck out. They were stuck out, but they're not stuck in. Does that make sense? See, they're pushing out equally, and be real easy to remove these on this one, because now they're practically out. There's one. We're gonna get brake fluid everywhere. I don't want to do that, so gonna pull this away from the bike as we're leaking brake fluid. But this one should pull out pretty easily too. But now that there's no pressure on this side, that one's not going to want to push out because there's not equal pressure on both of them. But these probably weren't just seating down in because they're a little corroded here. So we'll get them all cleaned up and we can assemble it back together. So now I can remove this line with the 12mm and then take this in for service and wrap this up real good because it's outside. We're going to put new fluid in and everything before we when we put it back together. hand pulled the one that was out. And another fail for this guy. This is my continuous review on this thing. It just doesn't grip because it's just smooth. Can't get it to grip into anything. So pulling out the piston removal tools. Okay, probably 25. Let's see if it'll fit down in there. Yep, looks like 25 will do it. Install that over here. Set it up correctly. Put on the handle. And tighten it up. And we'll pull it right out. All right, a bunch of twisting later. There's our piston, and that was probably our problem child the whole time because it definitely took a lot to get that out. She probably wasn't pushing back because she really took a lot of work to get out. There we go. Look in there. A little bit of dirt. A little bit of dirt, not too bad. Fluid actually looks pretty decent. Seals obviously weren't leaking. All right, what I'm gonna do, run this through the ultrasonic cleaner as it is. If I put it if I put it back together and it doesn't seal, I'll have to order seals. But at this point, let's just see if we can get this stuff cleaned up. Definitely get our pistons cleaned up and sliding freely. Okay, everything is pretty clean. Gonna let this sit apart for a little while so everything dries up. I did wipe out with a paper towel. You can see it looks a lot better in there, cleaning everything up. I did take steel wool to this slider. That's all feeling really good. Put a little bit of grease, just a little bit of grease on them. Obviously the brake pads did not go through the ultrasonic cleaner. I'll probably put a little bit of, clean that up a little bit. Put a little bit of grease in that. I did take steel wool over these pins and they cleaned up really nice. I'll put a little bit of grease on those. A lot of it's gonna brush off as you push it through, but we'll clean them up. And then the pistons themselves, cleaned up pretty decent. They are smooth. And I thought I had some rusting and gouging here. There's actually some markings. Looks like 2 lines on this side. Or is it 2 lines on this side? Not sure what those are about. Unless somebody grabbed them and pulled them out with a pliers maybe. But on this one, you can see 2 lines are pretty, looks like they're drilled in there. And there's 1 line on this side. But they cleaned up pretty good. I am not worried about the inside because the inside really doesn't do anything. So, tomorrow, when all this is dry, I'll go ahead. Like I said, these weren't leaking, so I'm going to use them again. You could replace the seals. I'll actually see if I have another kit around here. But I'm not too concerned. These were not leaking, so I think they'll be fine. So we'll just put a little brake fluid on the inside of this. Put a little brake fluid on the inside of this. And slide those guys right back down in there. I think they'll be fine. I will look on eBay or any other kit place, see if I can get these. But like I said, they're not rusty. They actually look pretty smooth and decent. They're the same. They're the same. The brake pads, whether or not they're the same, I don't know. They look the same. They should be clean too. I'll throw a little brake cleaner on them and just brush them up a little bit so that they slide nice. But you can tell this was sitting against the piston, so we know that was the inside one because you have those circles, and this has not really anything, but that was probably sitting against this side. I'm sure, yeah, you can tell how it kind of matches up. So we'll get them put back together, and then it's just reverse of installing the bike is just reverse of taking them off. So make sure these are all dry before I put them back together, because I don't want water in here mixing with the brake fluid. But everything cleaned up really, 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 really nice. So I'm happy with that. Well, so I'm not called a hack. I'm going to actually rebuild these calipers correctly, because a couple things I noticed. I did clean up the pads a little bit, and they're just fine. I did run a file through there. I'm going to lube them up a little. So clean those up. Cleaned up everything on the pistons. They're looking mighty fine, mighty shine. And then I noticed when I was going to take care of this, there is no dust seal. See that ridge in there? And it's dirty, so we need to clean that out. But in the meantime, I realized I have a rebuild kit from All Balls Racing. Caliper rebuild kit, rear Honda VF1100C or VF1100S. So we're good to go there. And it has all my seals. It has my dust seals, which are the smaller ones. It has my piston seals, which are scraping. On the inside, there's an extra. Well, when you put them in here, you gotta make sure the wider side is facing on the inside. Yeah. Oh, I could pull these out real easy. Okay. There you go. Oh, yeah, that's nasty. So that definitely needs repaired or replaced. When you install them, make sure the wider edge is on the inside so it scrapes the brake fluid off the piston and it pulls the piston back in. So anyway, yeah, that's dirty. So we need to clean them up. I don't know why I'm putting it back in, just for reference. But when you reach in there, make sure the lip is on the inside. Easy enough. So anyway, they need cleaned up in there yet. And then I'm gonna have to make sure everything is clean. We'll use a little brake cleaner and scrape all that out. But the other thing I noticed is this slide right here is locked in place. And that's probably one reason why she wasn't working. And that's, you can see this is torn here. I believe this one's torn from the top. Oh yeah, you can see it's rusty. So that needs all cleaned up before we put this back together. And it's not moving. Probably because it's rusty on this side. So that's locked in place. We're gonna need to get that moving. And this kit actually has all of those seals also. So we'll take that out, clean it up with steel wool, put on new seals, front and rear, and then make sure it's greased up and we can put it back in. It still moves a little, but it's not great. So rebuilding the pistons and the calipers and cleaning it up. And I lost, no wait, I didn't lose anything. Here's our bleeder. And this is still on the bike. So I didn't lose anything. All right, so clean her up, finish her up, push this out, and clean her up. Well, there you go. There's our slide. That was doing no sliding. It took a lot to get it out too, and I didn't want to score the end. So I actually grabbed this guy and just a nut driver because I didn't want to hurt the end. So it matched up on there pretty good. And I took a hammer and whacked it down through, and it's looking like that. So that definitely needs cleaned up. It almost looks like it won't clean up, but let's see what we can do. And obviously these boots are not doing their job and they need replaced because water is just running right down in, rusting it through. So these boots, after going through the pine sol, are pretty cruddy anyway. So yeah, it's just collecting rust in there. So they need replaced for sure. The other one actually, yeah, they're not doing their job. and they're junky, and they're like sticky now. So if you don't want your rubber parts to deteriorate, don't run them through Pine Sol. So in the ultrasonic cleaner. So there we go. That's a mess. That needs cleaned up to do the job right.